Hello, 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 beloved ones. 𝐑𝐞𝐤𝐦 here. I'm just wondering who is here with us. We're just a bit late, but we are on time because the only time that is right here and right now in the present moment. So how are you doing? Who is ready to have this conversation? Reclaim your power after toxic relationships. Share with us where you're watching this from. And let's just start with the intention as well. As you read the topic, what is it that came through? Like, what are you interested in learning or finding out, or what is it that will be a breakthrough for you when you listen to this? Like your takeaway, where you'll be like, "Oh, that was worth my time," and share with us where you're watching from and your intention. Like I said, I'm here with the amazing Alexandria. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'm not murdering it. I'm here with the amazing Alexandria in the house, and we're just gonna talk about toxic relationships, and how they can take away our power if we let them. And we are in these times where we are being called to shift from victim consciousness to step fully into our power, because when you are seeing things from how you have perceived life, you're not gonna understand what is coming through, because your lens is gonna be through the wounds that you went through. This is why we decided, let's step into this. As I also shared um how this was birthed, which was quite interesting, because I was talking about um just meeting someone. Actually, it's not about just meeting someone who's a stranger. Even right now, as we are having this conversation, I'm starting to be here and also introducing myself and what we're going to talk about. As you know, that I help leaders to harness their sexual energy so that they can reignite the spark in their relationships and also make more sales in that business. So I'm having a conversation with you. I'm introducing myself as in, like, who am I, right? So if I'm coming through and just like, hey, I am not, there's no connection. And this is something that happens even in relationship, where we don't get to connect with the other, you know where we are not ready to have a conversation. What happened, we put things out there. I introduced this, like, hey, we're gonna talk about this. If you are interested, jump in and let's have a conversation. So when you are meeting with someone and immediately, like, your agenda is in the forefront, there is no connection. The other one is not ready. Even when you talk about conversation, where you are meeting someone and it's like you are pissed off by something, they don't even know where you're coming from. They don't even, and it's like you get to know this, because you are all over. You're not going to be heard because of the way you are penetrating with whatever that you are bringing through. And that's the same thing that I was talking about the penetration, because we are always penetrating each other with our ideas, with our inspiration, right? So I shared this and it was received however that it was received, and which is also one of the barriers that stops us from fully growing and receiving other perceptions, because for us it's like there is only one lens, without even asking, what do you mean by that? Help me understand so I can expand my perception, right? So this birthed this conversation where we decided, you know what, there is a lot of victim consciousness out there. There is a lot of sort of like people are put in a box, like, you're gonna sit in that corner. Did you go through this? Did you experience this wounding? Sit in there, because you are not allowed to perceive things differently. You are not allowed to have pleasure in your life. You gotta sit there, because we understand and we're gonna bond in trauma. And there is that trauma bonding which is happening, whether it's in friendship, even in social media. Oh, that happened to me, and it's happening from the lower vibration. It's happening from the poor us, instead of, oh, that happened to you. And here you are. You inspire me to be better. You inspire me to find who I am. Because the difference between a visionary, between other people that you see out there rocking their lives, and a victim consciousness mindset, or somebody who perceives themselves as victim, is the vision. Victim vision, it's 6 letter words, both of them. And they both experienced pain. But the other one chose to say, you know what? I feel this pain. I appreciate it. But how can I best use it? And you know what's the beautiful thing? God always reward our pain if you are willing to look at it and say you're not gonna end up as pain. If you are willing to look at that pain and say, you know what, I'm not gonna give you my power, whoever that is. Because I wanna enjoy life as I was born to experience it. Right. So without wasting any time, let me bring in Alexandria. She helps women shift their relationship beliefs that keep them in toxic relationship patterns in order to make space for new beliefs. I love that attract aligned relationship that bring both peace and ease to their lives. As you know, you attract what you are. And sometimes you don't get to receive that which you want to receive because you do not have the capacity. So when you shift those beliefs, you are opening to experience something bigger, right? She uses different modalities like breathwork, human design, and unconscious mind reprogramming, energetic retrieval technique to help her clients shift these beliefs and become who they are meant to be. She's passionate about speaking on grief and loss and giving women a safe space to process and express their grief. Her grief work started when she lost her brother at 20 years and she experienced firsthand the alienation you feel when you lose a loved one and how important it is to feel safe to express yourself. And I bet we can all relate with that because we have experienced some loss at some point and how that was received. And interesting enough, it reminds me when after I lost my father and I was crying and my mother's sister said, "Don't cry, your father was sick." And that pissed me off. I was like, so what? Am I supposed to cry because he was sick? So welcome, Alexandria. Welcome.
Wow. That was an amazing introduction. I loved that so much. Thank you so much for having me here and yeah, just allowing me to share my own magic with your community and to have this like really raw, real and genuine conversation. A lot of what you were saying about this victim consciousness, it's really coming up for me right now as well. So for me personally, I was recently, um, yeah, I want to say a victim to it, but I think in the moment you are a victim when it happens, but you continue to choose to be a victim. That's a choice, right? So when these
Yeah,
things happen, it's yes, you are a victim to this thing that just happened, but you choose to continue on to be a victim. And I really felt what you were saying with this victim and visionary. And I say something very similar, victim and victor, right? I feel like those are
yeah,
two archetypes. And same with victim and visionary, right? Where
yeah,
you can choose to create vision from this. You can choose to create purpose from this. You can choose to be a victor of this perhaps most difficult, most challenging thing that you've ever experienced in your life, right? But
yeah,
that's a choice. And although we may not feel like it's a choice, I think that's kind of the thing that holds us in that victim consciousness and that victim mentality is that if there's no choice, I am a victim, right?
yeah,
So what happened for me recently is I someone created a smear campaign about me and it was really intense and I was receiving all of these messages um and I felt so much what you were saying of like being misunderstood, right?
yeah,
I was
yeah,
receiving all of these messages like of hate and like calling me a dumb bitch and calling me scum and racist and all of these things, right? And originally I was like, "Okay, I'm going to choose to respond to this through love."
yeah,
And people lost their minds. They were like, "You're bypassing, you're a piece of shit, da 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 da." And I was like, "Whoa, what's happening here?" Right? But
yeah,
I really that's something that like literally happened a week ago and I'm still kind of moving through. But I had to really sit with, okay, where is my victim consciousness in this? Right? Why is this being reflected back to me? Um, and before we get fully into conversation, I really want to share something because you were speaking about God. And maybe not everybody here believes in God. Maybe they have a different God. Maybe they call God source or universe or whatever. But I received a message today from God and I feel like I need to share it with you and your community if that's okay.
mhm. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
okay. Yeah, okay. So the message that was given to me is remember you are love, my dear Alex. You are love because I am love. These people, they are love too, because they too come from me. The hate and the evil, it is just a mirage. It is not the truth. Shine your light, share our light and truth with the world. You cannot change them or make them see. But when you choose to share our light, when you choose to let me in, your light will show the world what is right and what is just. My love will be held in your light, and my love will give you strength. And I feel like everybody needed to hear that today.
And I receive it. And if you are watching, whether it's on replay or live, share with us what is coming through for you as you are listening to
Mm,
this, because that's just the truth. I am you, you are me, and these people, because we are part of the collective, we are all part of the tapestry,
yeah,
right? And like you said, it's not whatever that we perceive as God, higher intelligence, source, universe,
yeah,
the nameless one, it's all that is, and we are part of all that is, whatever that we perceive as that highest consciousness, whatever that we go to when we feel like, oh, now in this moment, I need something bigger than me, you
mhm,
know. So to get to understand that, okay, I'm not going through this by myself, because
mhm,
I know that, and I'm glad you say that, because when I started my spiritual journey, I didn't want to use the word God. It was like,
mm,
because I associated God with the religious God that I
yeah,
grew up in, who was in the clouds waiting to judge and all that. So for some time, I didn't use the word God until all that I held and perceived as whatever the conditioning and programming just fell away, and I was like comfortable with like
mm,
saying God, because it's also a process of the transition. And wherever that you are, if you feel like, what are you talking about? God is just the universal source. It's still okay. Everything just is. And I just love the message
yeah,
that you shared right there. And like, for instance, when you talk about feeling like being in that victim state, this is what I'm feeling called to talk about. Yes, we feel like a victim, but the truth of it is we are that magnificent being that we are, but we are
yeah,
having a victim experience, which
yes,
doesn't define us. And one other thing again that I appreciate about this victim consciousness is that, there is, when something is happening, I've been in that state where a lot of things were happening, but I
mhm,
was not aware that something is happening to me. You understand?
mhm,
Especially when you feel like it's what is happening in the whole world. You understand? It's not like,
yeah,
oh, it's just normal. It's just
yeah,
normal. And then at some point you shift to say, something is happening to me. For me, I feel like that's the stage to be celebrated,
mhm,
because you
mhm,
are aware of something, you are feeling something. That feeling like a victim is not like, it's not something that we can brush away, because at times, even when you're saying something and somebody says, oh, get out of victim conscious, at times, like, get out of victim consciousness, and that's not what we are saying here. It's just
mhm,
like, even if you are there, no matter how long you choose to be there, remember you've got a choice. Remember who you are into it,
mm,
right? And it's not saying deny what is happening to you, because even when you talk about stages of grief, there is that moment where you kind of like, oh shit, this is happening to me. And there is the
mm,
denial phase and all that, right?
yeah,
So at times we are not aware, we are numb to what is happening. And then at some point we realize, shit, this is happening to me. And it's
yeah.
painful. You
This
want
is
other people
happening
to
to
know.
me and this
Yeah,
sucks, right?
yeah,
I'm writing a book right now that is like it's literally called This Fucking Sucks. How to honor your grief, right? Because it
exactly.
does. It does. And um what I've really realized as well about victim consciousness, because it's really being shown right now, right? Over the past few years, it's
Yeah.
been really intense. But what I've realized is that everybody, every single person, they want to belong, right? They want to belong. And this came up for me the other day. It's like being in this victim consciousness is belonging to a community, right? You're belonging to something. right?
Exactly.
And when there's someone or something that, you know, makes it so that like, oh my gosh, like threatens is the word, threatens you belonging to that, you almost go even deeper into that. You double down on that victim consciousness, right? Because you're like, no, 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 no. This, I belong to this. I belong to this. Right. And yeah, it's so interesting because I've been seeing this doubling down, right? And this victim archetype is one of the most difficult archetypes to kind of step out of, right? Because you don't believe you have the choice, right?
Yeah.
In that, right? So it's very, very difficult. But like you said, when you have awareness of this is happening to me right now. This sucks. This sucks. You know, this is horrible. And I'm like not super happy in this experience right now. But when you have the awareness that it's not something that's going to be there forever, first of all, when you have the awareness that, you know, you get to choose to come out of it, that's when it's like, it's not actually, to me, that's like a different level of victim consciousness, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
But I really appreciated as well what you were saying about God, because for me as well, speaking of relationships, right? So I grew up with, you know, in a Christian family. My dad was a pastor, my mom's dad was a pastor.
Wow.
Everyone
Wow.
was married through, you know? So there was, and my dad was also a narcissist. So there was like, and same with my mom's dad, like lots of issues, right? And for me, that created a lot of difficult beliefs around my relationship with men, including God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, I resisted the word God for a very, very long time because I was like, nope, God's a man. Like, right? God's masculine energy. But
Yeah.
God is God. God doesn't fit in masculine or feminine, nothing. God is God, right? And not constrained to Christianity or constrained to Judaism or constrained, right? That's just how our mind can best conceive what, or you know, conceptualize, not conceive, conceptualize what God is. Um but I really appreciated you saying that because I really believe in the beginning you said this as well. We have these lenses, right? These glasses that we put on, and we see through them, and these glasses are created, right? Like they're a prescription that's created based of all of our experiences, all of the stories that we've told ourselves, and all of the beliefs that we have about ourselves and those around us, you know, and our external reality. So these are the glasses that we're going to be looking through. But when
Yeah.
you really start creating that awareness, right? You start creating that awareness, you start doing this type of work. You start almost like, imagine you're at like an optometrist office, right? And they're going through and they like, I don't know if you've ever gotten glasses before and you've had to do this, but they have this like big machine, okay? And they give you different like lenses to look through, and they go 1 or 2, 3 or 4, and they like
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
through all of them. And this is almost what this awakening to yourself and remembering yourself feels like, right? Because you're changing your perspective, you're
And I love,
changing these
I just love
lenses.
what you say, this or this,
Yeah.
because like they both exist,
Mm. Mm. Yes.
right?
Yes, you can
And
have multiple truths at once.
exactly. And again, even our truth evolves as we evolve.
Mhm.
Even when I talk about confidence, authenticity, which are the pillars that I value, freedom, it
Mm.
evolves. There is what we are experiencing when we in that programming, that container that we're born in, you understand, and we are taught what we are taught, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that, okay, fine, the wrongness thing is kind of like the wrongness is, I think it's what is icky, but when you kind of like, this is not for me, it's not saying that that
Mm.
is wrong, but it's not for me. So
Right.
can my truth exist with your truth, whether it's the
Mm,
family truth of believing in whatever religious path that they have chosen, and I take the path that I take? Or can I find who I am, which is what I call freedom of individuality, and then like find who I am, and if at all who I am individually is in alignment with this, then
yeah,
it's okay. Or it can be this and this, without me making wrong of the path that you're going, or you
yeah.
making me wrong of the path that I'm going. And
Yes.
talking about this, it's still the foundation of a relationship, whether it's personal or professional, romantic, family, whatever. Freedom of individuality, knowing
Mm,
that you deserve to be you in your truth without me wanting to impose my truth in you. You can share what you share, and I share what I share. And it's kind of like, wow, that's a quite different perspective. It's quite interesting. And I respect yours, I respect mine. And at the end of the day, we
yeah,
part ways without saying, you are wrong. This is the best
yeah,
way to say it. This is how to perceive it. Because understanding that we perceive things from different lenses. And
yeah.
maybe a year from now, 6 months from now, my truth would have changed. And I'll be like, you know what? That is it. Or even I'll find another option, because there are different ways, there are different possibilities and
Yeah.
opportunities that exist in the now.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was like just like snapping and like yes that whole time because it's so true. It's so true. And it's so interesting, right? Because you and I met just like you posted like this more provocative sounding post, right? It was your truth. It
Exactly.
is your truth,
Yeah.
right? And you were expressing your truth. And let me tell you, when we express our truth, sometimes that fucking triggers people. It pisses them off, right? And it was so interesting because the amount of people that responded back to this, no, reacted back to this statement that
Exactly.
you made, right? They were moving from those wounds, right? They were responding from this wounded place. And it was so interesting to see and like to
You
watch.
manipulator, you this and what, desperate this, you don't deserve to, and you can imagine how harsh it was. And
Yeah.
also the beauty of being where we are doing the work. I can discern that this is not mine. This is not mine. And
Mm,
I'm not taking it personal and making it about me, which when we have if I haven't done the work, I would have also like went full force attack and calling names
yeah.
and
But
all,
why,
and
right? Like,
all.
what is the point of that? And like,
Exactly.
I was feeling that too when you were speaking because we create these identities. So before you were saying like we put ourselves in a corner and we kind of almost like put ourselves in these boxes, right? And these
Yeah.
boxes are these like identities that are created based off of our opinions and our beliefs and our experiences again, right? And like so many people hold on to them for dear freaking life, right? Like, my past identities that I was struggling so hard to let go of were I'm the girl with the dead brother. I'm the girl with daddy issues. I'm the girl that has it all together, right? These are the beliefs that we have about ourselves and our relationships with other people and our relationships with ourselves, right? So it's just so interesting because whenever I see people react in those ways, again, they're saying, "No, I belong to this community. I belong to this identity. I must fight this because you are threatening my identity." But at the end of the day, that is not who you are. These experiences are not who you are, right? Who I am is I'm Alex. I'm like a crazy interdimensional being that's here having a human experiences,
Exactly.
you know, and like that's shining the light of God onto the world, right? That's who I am. I'm not
Transmuting the
experiences.
darkness that is holding people hostage, right?
Yeah.
I love that, because and you shifted so well, because I was thinking of going that direction as well. Like you say, the identity that we defend so badly, the roles, the
Mhm.
labels that we hold into,
Yeah.
because for me, I mean, I've had many different identities along the way, but for me, my awakening story was my children. When I was separated with my children, I ended up being separated with my children for 5 years, but that was a journey and a half. And there are many mothers out there. You might be listening as a mother, and you are wearing the mother crown. You understand? Like, I'm a
Mm.
mother. I'm a mother. Hey, can you go out? And I'm a mother. Can you do this? I'm a mother. Everything is like you gotta perceive. And here's the thing about wrong, good, right, bad, whatever. There is nothing wrong with being a mother, and it's something that is perceived as positive in the society, but still it can be limiting you finding who you are. You
Yeah.
understand? So I was living my life. I had like this whole, yeah, an accountant, and for me still, I didn't love accounting. This is my life here, doing this work. You understand? This is what turns me on when you talk about being
Mm.
turned on. But accounting, I was doing it for money, which
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, yeah, make it more interesting to say that is that which you call the prostitute archetype, and we're thinking this is just the archetype that shows up
Woo!
only when we
I
only
love it.
when we're in relationship or having sex or whatever and exchanging sex for money. But when we are doing something that does not turn us on, something that we do not like, this is still a part of that selling our soul. I'm gonna do
Mhm.
this work because it gives me a certain identity in the society, because it gives me money, because I don't know who I am
Mm.
without it. So I held into this accountant role until a lot of things happened, and I lost the job after being an accountant, I think for 10 plus years. And then afterwards, um, I was still like, I kept going. Like we say it as mothers, my children are my life, they're my strength. And it's true. And when I was separated with my children, after being a single mother, I was not married. And then the authority, the system coming through, and all of a sudden my children have to go to their father, who was in a relationship with the sister-in-law slash girlfriend, and they have to even move to the sister-in-law's to the sister-in-law's place. In my world, when you talk about perception, the morality, I was like, what the heck? That was turning my stomach upside down. I was like, this is
Mm.
it. And all the stories that are all like my reality, which is like, I've been a single mother. I've been taking care of my children by myself. There's just a lot of which is true. And then come this, I was just like, what the heck are you talking about? Which I remember one of the days I was called by the social worker, and he said, you have to come and have a meeting with the children's father, and then the sister-in-law stroke girlfriend. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I have to come over by myself and meet this couple that for me was like, you know. And when
Yeah.
I said, no, I ain't coming, I'm not going to have that conversation. If you say I'm going to have a conversation with the father of the kids, I understand. But I don't understand why I should have a conversation with two adults,
Yeah.
couple, and I come alone. And she just said, you are really naive. If you can only know that your children are going to be staying by this woman's place, so and I was raging inside. And then we went through different court procedures, different lawyers. I lost the case, and all the injustice that was happening. And I was lost and angry, powerless. There was just a lot of things. And
Mm.
it's a different kind of loss, because it's different when you say, I've lost my brother, I've lost my mom, I've lost my children, as in death, right? Now this is the loss the loss that I didn't know how to deal with it. Am I
Yeah.
ever going to be with my children or not? How am I supposed to be grieving this and all that? And I was busy fighting and fighting and fighting until I had a channel like this guidance to say, write something. I took a pen and
Mm.
started writing. And what I wrote was, who are you? I mean, it just started like it's something that I'm gonna post on
Mm.
Facebook. Like, who are you without a job? And I was like, this is juicy. Who are you without a job? I'm I'm excited and writing, and who are you without a job, without your mother, without your religion, without your father? Like every
Woo!
single thing.
Yes.
And at the end, who are you without your children?
Mm.
And tears started rolling. I was like, this message is for me. Who am I? And that's the moment that it's scary, right? To realize, oh my God, I don't know who I am. Who am I? You know, And that was the beginning of everything. And this is, like you said as well, who are you? This is where we all get to begin. It doesn't matter the role that you are in, the label that you are wearing, whether it's good, positive, negative, whatever that we are calling it. The question is, who are you? Who are you to even guide those children, if at all you are holding into the mother role? Because that was it for me, you know. And to even understand, like, for instance, I think when I wanted to go with the seventh lawyer or something like that, the message that came through was, how the problem is that you think these children are yours. That's the only problem, with all the emotions and the rage that was rightfully and would be understood by everybody in the society. When I come through and say, even if I killed someone and say it's because I'm a mother, I had to kill. It's like, it's understandable because I'm a
Mhm.
mother. And it's not making it wrong or right. It's just saying, how is that saving us? How is that restoring the heart of
Mhm.
humanity? Because I believe this is what we are here to birth as women. You understand? And even for me to understand that these children are the children that are on their soul's journey. They're not mine. I've been given them to God to take care of
Mhm.
them, but they don't belong to me. As much as it is heavy, even it's an experience that I went through, there are emotions around it, but it's also expansive to realize that, oh, I get to find myself. Because
Mhm.
many people, going back to the toxic relationship, are in toxic relationships, and their reasoning is, for my children's sake. I want my
Oh
children
my
to grow up
gosh.
in a family
Absolutely.
where there is a mother and father, where there is this and this. Who are you without that? Because
Yeah.
for you to guide your children, to parent your children into that power and that uniqueness, is you understanding who you are.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and, like, hearing your story, it's like it takes so much courage, right? It takes so much courage to choose yourself. Takes so much courage to say, "These kids, I don't own them," you know? They are these souls. Like, that takes courage. Like, I was getting chills when you were talking about this because as, like, human beings, we've created these beliefs in society. We've created these conditionings, and it's like, this is how things are supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to understand the world, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
said, "No, no." And it's so, like, I love your story because you also sat with this deep, deep, deep heartache and pain, which again takes courage, right? This is a whole other realm of grief. Just like, losing your children to death is a whole other realm of grief, right? It's like,
And
yeah,
that is
yeah,
just out there when you say sitting with grief. And it's
yeah,
not even sitting with it at that moment, it's like living with it.
yeah,
You know? I was
yeah.
I wrote something in one of
Giving it
not here on
space.
Facebook. Yeah. I wrote something, I think it was last week, where I was reading a story, and a woman got pregnant with a man, and then the man never got to know about the children. And at some point they met when the children were like 7 8 years and all that, and the man was like, these children are better off with me. I've got more money, I can give them better, so I'm gonna take them. And the woman was like, you can't do that. And the last thing he said is, you're gonna hear from my lawyer tomorrow. And the woman fainted. And I was just like deep in tears. I just cried. I just cried. And it's just that story that is reminding me of the pain of this. When I say we live with grief, and at the same time,
Mhm.
there is that gratitude, and it also opens the space for me to relate with women who are going through this, or even men, because even men go through this. And even
Yeah,
also, even the mindset of somebody thinking that, as a mother, or even because of money, you can't mother your children, or because I have, all these nuances are around this, but at the same time understanding that the moment I shift from what I'm feeling
mm,
and go out there, I'm not going to attend to this aspect, this part here that wants to me to feel it and say this is
yeah,
painful, right? So I
Yeah.
get to I understand there is somebody who's doing what they're doing, and it's true, but it doesn't serve me. If I go
Yeah.
to them, I'm disconnecting from myself. But I can be here and just say, hey, the 30-year-old adult, I hear you. It's
Mhm.
painful. And you deserve
Mhm.
to be heard, to be seen in that pain without making wrong
Absolutely.
it wrong or right. But again, we're not gonna sleep here and make it our identity. It's part of what happened to us. It's part of what we
Mm.
experienced. But at the same time, because of the power, like you said, it takes courage.
It takes
I wouldn't
courage.
have learned the courage and developed the muscle that I've developed had it not because of that. And even me, I wouldn't have known the divinity in
Yeah.
me had I not
Yeah.
gone through that. And how beautiful
Yeah.
is that? Because as much as I can feel the pain, if I have to go through that to find myself, I will go through it again.
And this is like you choosing not to be a victim, right? We're not victims of our lives. We're not victims of our circumstances, you know? And like I was really feeling what you were saying because it's like living with grief means also not judging it, means also letting it live, letting it be, letting it breathe, breathe and be. So many of us, because of the way that society has been constructed and created. And again, it's not wrong. And also, so many of us push our grief off to the side, right? And being present with your grief, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. The way I like to describe grief, a lot of people describe grief in the 5 stages. Personally, for me, I'm like, that's some bullshit. I describe grief as, you're out in the backyard. You're surrounded by like 12 8-year-old kids. They all have like, do you know these Nerf guns? You know Nerf guns?
Hmm,
They
hmm.
all have
Yeah.
these Nerf guns. They're all surrounding you and they're all shooting these Nerf bullets at you. And each Nerf bullet is a different emotion. This is how I describe grief, right? It's not waves,
Mm.
it's not stages. It's everything at once, simultaneously, sometimes here, sometimes there. It's all over the place. It's chaotic, right? But grief and love, when we give both of those, right? When we give love, our full presence, and when we give grief, our full presence, those will be your greatest teachers, your greatest teachers, you know? And to me, like, they don't exist without the other,
Amen.
you know? They don't exist without the other.
They don't. They don't because and it's funny because anger is coming through when you say there's something that you said probably between love and I mean love and grief being there, and then I thought
Mhm.
of anger as well, because
Mhm.
it's
Part
I
of
mean,
grief.
I grew up an angry child without even knowing
Mm.
why I have this anger within me, and there is so many things that came through just to say, hey, why I'm angry? And I'm like, I don't know. And then this aspect comes and drops in why it's angry, and I bring in anger because anger is an emotion that we are taught not to feel,
Mm.
especially a girl child. You can't be angry. That's not how girls behave, and I've realized that
Yeah.
anger, there is a lot of things under anger, but there is also love. When you love, you can just be angry because you are not allowed to express that, and other people are not even expressing that, so you just get angry. But the moment you dissolve it, or you give it some time and then it dissolves, you get to
To
see,
breathe.
oh, there is this beauty here, you know. And like you said, love, when you give love the full attention, I feel love is the most powerful weapon that we can ever use,
Yeah.
because love is way powerful, and everything gets to be here. And it's more like an invite. I'm gonna feel you grief, I'm gonna feel you anger, I'm gonna feel you sadness, whatever, but at the same time, I'm just gonna invite you to this love. If you want to play here, we can go play there, just like a child, right? Do you want
Mhm.
to come and play here? And like, I don't want to. I just want to feel my anger right now. I just want to feel my grief right now. Okay, then it's fine. If you want, you can come here, and then you can sit with that. And then eventually you see this.
Mm.
"Oh, that's quite interesting. Can I just go slide in there?" And you get into the love thing. And as you were talking about grief, to say they cannot exist without the other. For me, grief, the way I've experienced it, it's like the deepening of love. There is love,
Absolutely.
but for you to experience the depth of it, it's when you are okay with grief.
Mm-hmm.
Because at times I found myself at times just feeling grace of the love that is around me. And as
Yeah.
much as I'm feeling that, and then tears start flowing, there's a bit of grief at the same time. And it's
Yeah.
just beautiful to observe both of them coexisting together without
Yeah.
making any one of them wrong. It's kind of like it's okay for us to share the space, just the same as like, hey, it's okay for us to share the space to shine our light out there as
Mm-hmm.
women, as people, not like, oh my God, Alexandra, you're gonna take my space, you're gonna take the light. I don't want you to be here. I just want to suppress you and judge you, criticize you, because if you show up in your light, there's not gonna be enough for me, but there is enough for all of us. And still with the emotion
Mm.
is what
Mm.
spirit said to me, with emotions even. It's one of the cause of healing the death of the feminine, which is like first thing that was given, it was the desires, and then there was emotions, which emotions is the evidence of life. If you do not experience emotions,
Mm.
you have not
Yes.
lived. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I speak with this all the time, with my clients and the women that I support. And they're like, I'm too emotional. And I'm like, I want you to know that like this human emotion is a part of the human experience. It's
Yeah.
such a blessing to be able to access this full spectrum of emotions. Like that is
Yeah.
a blessing. That means you are alive and here
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
living, right? And yeah, like I was feeling like so much of what you were saying. I really do also believe that grief is our deepest reflection of love, right? It's our
How much we
deepest
have loved.
reflection of
Exactly.
love, right? Absolutely. And like without love, there's not really grief, like it's just because when you think of grief, right? It's like it's losing something that you love, losing someone you love, losing parts of yourself that you love, right? That's exactly what it
The
is.
programming and the conditioning, like the mind first thing, it's like grief. Oh my God, I've lost something. Oh, it's wrong. I can't feel that. And this is
Mhm.
also, as much as we have names to something, because
Yeah.
that's we as the mind, we get to learn to discern and all that, so we've named and labeled things, but at the same time, um it's also beautiful at times when you just feeling like, oh, there's a sensation out there. Okay. And you don't give it any name, like, I'm just
Okay.
gonna
It's
sit
there.
with you and see what it is without naming
Give
it.
it
Because at
space.
times when you name it, you go to the mind already, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm angry. Oh my God, I'm feeling grief. Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to feel. Then you get locked in the mind. But
And
when
this
you
is
just sit
a
in the
lot of
heart, in
dropping
the
into the
body,
feminine, right? This
yeah,
is a lot of dropping into the feminine, right? So it sounds like you understand like masculine and feminine energies. And again, we use these terms to conceptualize and understand, the world. And this divine masculine is meant to hold this, this container for the feminine to be, to feel safe, to be, right? So right now we're both healing the masculine by showing him how to create this container and healing the feminine internally by by providing her this space to be, right? This space for, okay, this emotion came up or this feeling came up, let's give it space to be, to breathe, and be present with it, right? Instead of shove it aside, because that is what we have historically done, or instead of trying to intellectualize it and figure out what's going on here, why don't we just lean into it and be present with it, right? And a lot of us, in particular women, there's a lot of like, we don't feel safe to do that, right? Because our divine masculine internally hasn't really been, had a great role model of showing us that, right? Or I mean, lots of people also use this term where like the feminine is the flowing river and the masculine are the banks, right? That hold that river and allow it to flow and allow it to hold all this life and create,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, like I was definitely feeling everything you were saying. And I also want to say you said something about like there's enough for everyone. There's enough love for everyone. There's enough love for everyone. It's not like a piece of a pie where you're losing on the pie, right? It's abundant. Love is abundant. I mean, today
Exactly.
I was just given like I felt like I had like a love transfusion from God. It's like a blood transfusion, but it was a love one, you know? Like that's what it
Yes.
felt like. I like messaged my own mentor and I was like, this is what happened, you know? And that happened because I felt safe and I allowed myself to to receive, right?
I
Yeah,
love
and it
that, the feeling
yeah.
safe of it, because often people will be worried that I'm not able to create something because whatever reason. But
Yeah.
if you're not
I don't get the
safe
downloads
in
or,
your body, if you don't feel safe here on earth, you don't feel safe to receive, you know?
I
And
don't
and
feel
and
safe
like,
to
for
receive.
instance, I love your when you say there is enough love and you spoke about the feminine and the masculine.
Mm.
What just came through was just this. There is enough love, abundance of love. We are abundant of love here in this world, and even enough space as well for both of us to cry. And when I say both of us, I mean men and women, because
Mm.
even women, we've been conditioned about men, like be a man.
Yeah.
You understand? And most women even have this thing. I want an emotional available man. Are women really ready? Do they have the capacity to hold space for an emotional available man?
Yeah.
Or the moment the man now shows up and allows himself to feel, because we are healing both the masculine and the feminine. Like I said,
Yeah.
patriarchy shut off the women's womb, by so many,
Mm.
by shame, especially whether it's through sexual abuse or just being told you can't be that and all that. And then as much as we can focus on that, because as women we are not fully connected with our sexual energy, fully embracing it, and like I said, harnessing it to create with it, because this is a creation energy, it's a life force energy that is creating. It's not only for procreation, which is the biggest mistake that is out there, but it has not only affected women, because patriarchy also shut off the man's
Yeah.
power, which is opening of the
Absolutely.
heart. So we are
Yes.
connected to the heart, and we are like here in the front, like I'm just gonna give this
Mm.
love. And women are connected, even though we both somehow, it's from the distorted perspective, like both of us, even the love, because it's kind of like, you get to be mine and you get to give me what I want. No, you can't be, it's there is that which needs to be healed. And men as well, sexually, this is why when it comes to taking action, men giving birth to their desires, as in like they take action and all that, because they are connected to that sexual energy. They're able to go out there and
Mhm.
work and have whatever that they need. We are here with the heart open. We are not connected to our sexual energy. So there is no flow here with our
Yep.
womb and
Mm.
the heart. So patriarchy, it has made both of us, men and women, powerless. And for us to be in
Mm.
our power, it also knowing that we get to create space and hold space for each other as men and women, even in a relationship. Understanding that actually is very important with who you
Yeah.
be in a relationship, in terms of you growing and healing, and also giving birth to your desires. And still the same thing, as in like holding space for your partner to heal, to evolve, and feel safe. Because at
Yeah.
times we're like, oh, this man is not opening up. You can only do that when you feel safe, right?
Yeah.
And the same story, men and women, we still get to work and heal both feminine and masculine, because even as the women, we abandoned our feminine and we started
Mm.
sort of like
Mm.
modeling what men are doing, so that we can be recognized, especially in corporate positions and all that. Like, I gotta show them that I can do it. I gotta prove you that I can also work hard
Mm.
as a man. And we don't know how to leave that behind in the office, in the boardroom, and now bring in that feminine when we come home, where
Yeah.
we are loving, where we are nurturing. And even now, because even when I talk about the future leaders of tomorrow, when you talk about empathy and all that, what does it need? It needs the feminine qualities, and we both
Mm.
have them, men and women. When you talk about influence, impact, because we are shifting from control, and it needs both of us, men and women, to be in touch with both our feminine and masculine energies.
Mhm. Absolutely. I completely agree, and I feel like, I'm sure you've had this with your clients as well, and they'll say like, "This is the kind of man I'm attracting," or you've experienced it in your life too, right? If they're
Of course.
heterosexual, "This is the kind of man that I'm attracting. He's emotionally unavailable. He, doesn't show up. He's not in integrity. He is late all the time, or he just like doesn't show up at all." Whatever it is, right? These issues, like I am a big, big believer in mirroring, right? So what is being
Oh, yes.
reflected to you externally, like or what is happening externally, the issues you're having, they're a reflection of your internal reality, right? So he's not opening up. Where are you not opening up? Right? He's not showing up. Where are you not showing up for yourself? Where are you abandoning yourself? Right? And there's so much power. There's so much power in seeing the world this way, because you are taking responsibility and accountability,
Mm.
right? In your
Yeah.
life, in the roles that you play. And you are able to say, okay, I can't change this person. They're not under my control. But what I can do is I can work through my own beliefs, I can work through my own stuff and allow my reality to change around me, right?
Yes.
And that there's so much power in that, right? And so many of us, like, even me, I was in a relationship with a narcissist as well. And I would say things like, I wasn't a victim. I overgave. I allowed him to treat me this way. Da 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 da, right? Like continued that. And people would be like so upset. Like they'd be like, like, what do you mean? Are you saying that like victims are responsible for, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like this is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, of how we see ourselves, of the beliefs we have about what we deserve and what we desire. This is what is being reflected back to us. And we get to choose to change those reflections. It just takes a little bit of work and sometimes a little bit of time, right? And awareness and
And
responsibility.
that's I love that because I always say, when I say often when people hear you get to invest in yourself, they're thinking, oh, it's just money. Money is the easiest resource to invest on. Time,
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
and willingness to do the work. Like you said,
Mm.
I know narcissistic, and we're not denying that there is a level, that is
Of
extreme where it's like,
suffering,
okay,
right? Yeah.
but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I get to choose who I allow in my space. And if you are
Mm.
sitting on a table where
Powerful.
disrespect is served, when you're sitting on a table where whatever that is there that you experience is served and you're allowing it, then you gotta look at yourself. Even if, because one other thing is like, oh, they have money, so I need their money. Why am I feeding this prostitute like a type?
Mm.
Why am I feeding this? What can I do? Because we've got so much abilities, but we are not willing to respect our abilities so that they can serve us. But instead, we are looking for somebody outside of us to serve us. You understand?
Mhm.
Because for me,
Mhm.
what I struggle with a lot was even like the disrespect, especially with the men that I had children with, and not
Mm.
one person, not in one continent, in different continents. So I had to wake up and I was like, I'm done with this. Respect. And I said, I'm going to give myself the respect that I need. Integrity, self integrity. Acceptance, self acceptance.
Yeah.
Appreciation, here. I can have all of that within me, activate all of that within me, and be in my power. And even at times when you say you created that or you allowed that, it's not you as in like you alone in human, because we are part of our ancestral parents and all that, the family, whatever that we agreed
Mhm.
to. And
Mhm.
at times, for instance, even
Yeah.
when you talk about creating that, that times where you can go through something and then it comes again. It's kind of like the universe is coming with a bowl of the same thing, and it's kind of like, hey, what do you think about this? Are you interested?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the moment where if you've done the work, you kind of like, okay, how am I gonna respond to that? That's
Yeah.
when you'll know you've done the work. And at times it's even because you've got the capacity to
Yeah.
heal some of the survival patterns that your ancestors lived in for eons. Because even when you talk about suffering and the victim consciousness, it's something that we marinated in for eons, and we
Oh my
cannot
gosh,
continue
absolutely.
anymore. Yeah,
Absolutely. And, what was coming up for me when you said this is, like, again, I have some provocative ideas, right? And by provocative, I mean it's not like what mainstream, is normal to people. So,
yeah,
after my brother passed away, I had gone through some stuff, right? I had my own coping mechanisms at the time. I like we don't need to get into it. It's all over my social media. Anyways, um but what really empowered me later on, and not everybody's going to agree with this, and guess what? That's fine. Doesn't matter.
yeah.
But what really
Exactly.
empowered
But your
me,
truth get to be here, and I want to
yeah,
hear it.
yeah. And what really empowered me was like beginning to understand that I don't know if you've heard of the bus stop analogy. Okay, but there's this bus stop analogy where essentially before you go and live this life, you're kind of hanging out at a bus stop and you're with all of these other souls. Okay, you're a soul, you're with
Mhm.
all of these other souls. And you're like, okay, these are the big lessons that I need to learn in this life that I'm going
Yeah,
into. These are the biggest lessons I need to learn. And some of those will be like, you know utmost forgiveness. Some of those will be, it's like whatever those lessons are for you and your soul.
yeah, yeah,
And then you say things, to the other souls, and you're like, okay, I need to learn, for example, forgiveness, right? This is the
yeah,
biggest lesson I need to learn. So then you say, okay, what's a situation where I can, learn my utmost forgiveness? Maybe that's someone taking my kids away.
yeah,
Maybe that's right. Maybe that's someone hitting someone I love, and they were a drunk driver, right? And then everybody goes, I don't really want to. That doesn't sound very good, right? I don't want to. I don't want to. And then someone says, you know what? I know this is a really important lesson for you, so I will volunteer to do this. And then you go and you live this life, right? And understanding that these moments, they can suck. They can be so crappy, right? With losing, you said you lost one of your parents, your dad, I believe, right?
yeah,
Yeah, you lost your dad. I lost my brother. He was 22 years old, right? My mom lost her child. There were so many lessons in that as well. And it doesn't mean, I'm not saying, you know, um, everything happens for a reason. That's not what I'm saying. But we give these moments, these difficult moments and challenges, we give them meaning. We can choose to give them purpose,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so when not everybody's going to believe that, like, or agree with that analogy. But when I've listened to that, I can't remember. I'll send you the author of the book because it's not me who came up with this analogy. Um,
I think it might be I don't know if it's something that you might have, heard from He Writes
she's a
Conversations with God.
doctor. No,
Oh,
she's a
it's a
doctor.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Then it's
So
a
this is like
different story.
this was written in a book.
Mhm,
She wrote energy codes, I believe. Um,
mhm.
but yeah,
Yeah, but
that
it's true, and
changed
it's
things for
similar
me.
to it's similar to what I experienced. Like for me, it was like I was just like walk. Actually, I was kind of like I just went deep to the clouds, and I was somewhere, and I just met different people, different people, different people, and I was meeting them in different times. I was just like wondering, I know these people, I know like somewhere dead, somewhere alive, and all that. And I was just told that this is a soul marriage because we know marriage that we know is like in the human world where we make
Mm,
vows until death do us part and all that. And I was told this is a soul marriage, as in like you have agreed to meet at certain time, at certain point, and there are some definitely codes that we are sharing. That's why
yeah.
certain things had to happen the way it happens. Now I've had so many different out of body spiritual experiences, which was like lessons
Mm,
after lessons, lessons after lessons. Even the father of my children, I know that it was a soul contract. And everybody
soul
involved. This
contract
is
for
why
sure.
even when I was told Like when I was told to do the job, I was just told when you are done. Because at first thing when I was like, forgive, I didn't even mention that my daughter was bitten by dogs while, because I moved to Germany and they were in Botswana, and my daughter was bitten by dogs, two Rottweilers, and she nearly died. Even though at times even that she nearly died, it's kind of like it's me adding, giving a meaning to that, which makes it even worse. I was even looking at, like, for instance, when I look at my ex-husband and the whole court issues after what the father of my children did, at times I'll be like, and it would be feeling like that. Like he just took like I had a scar, which like he was the person who was with me when I was going through this, and like he understood every single thing, how traumatic and everything that I felt, because he was my supporter when I was going through this. And then he turns around and does the same thing. The betrayal that I felt, actually, to be honest,
Mm,
I couldn't process it when it happened. It took me directly into the dark night of the soul. I could
yeah.
not process it. I could not, because like I said, it felt like he knew my scar so well. He studied it so well. And then he took a knife and just put it in that scar and then
Yeah.
reopened the wound.
Whew.
But you see how vivid it is? It's the pain is just like that. But I realized at the same time, I would snap out of it and say, how? When you do that, you're not gonna get out of it because it's
Yeah.
been real. But this is a narration. It's kind of like you are making the story whatever painful and bleeding again and all that. So I was out for something like more than 3 months, where I
Mhm.
even know that I wanted out, until at some point where now I had to choose to say, I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
leave this earth because of this. But there was a choice for me to leave the earth because I could not take this anymore. You
Mhm.
understand? So there is indeed that those soul contracts. Some people may not agree with it, but from my experience, like even when I talk about my spiritual work, my calling, and all the experiences that I was having, one of the reasons why even my marriage could not work, because my ex-husband said, "You are crazy. There is nothing like God." And that was his truth. And
Mm.
he was not willing to say, whatever that you say, as long as it makes you happy, as long as it's your truth, we can still live together. But for him, it was like, this is making you stupid. So you better step out of this stupid fantasy and know that
Mm.
God doesn't exist, so that we can live together. And that is denying my freedom of individuality. And
Yeah.
his truth doesn't have to be my truth. So I could not be in that. I could not allow myself to continue leaking my energy of creation in that kind of relationship where I wouldn't have a voice, a face, or even a name,
Yeah.
because that is how he wants me to be, and I wasn't that person anymore. As we talk about the
Yeah.
revolution, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
evolution.
And
Sorry,
how interesting is it
but
too
still,
that the person, the version of you that you were around him probably wasn't even you, you know? Like, it
no, I
probably
wasn't.
wasn't
I
even
wasn't.
you. It wasn't even you,
That's the
right?
thing. That's the thing. When you talk about, like, for instance, when you say I allowed them to be, for us to be, even like, for instance, when we meet, because I met him when I was wounded. This is why for me, I wouldn't encourage anyone to be or start another relationship before they heal. I met him when I was wounded
Yeah.
and I was going through all the court cases. Definitely my vibration was where we were. So we bonded through my ex this, my ex that. Oh, where have you been? And it was beautiful at that at that
Get
moment,
it.
because
You've
it
seen
was
it.
our
You've been
wounds
through it.
and the other people that did something to us were the topic. Now, when we start healing, because I still remember even when I I told him at some point that I've forgiven my ex. Because I was doing the work while I was with him. And this is the thing, even in relationship, if we don't grow together, we grow apart. And
Yeah.
when I told him, no, I don't, I've forgiven him, he was angry. What do you
Mm.
mean you forgive him, this stupid, this person, and all that? And that was his thing, because this was the reason why we bonded. So now, without this person being wrong and all that, there was nothing. And at the same time, as you mentioned, I was not my true self, because I was in this wounded state. Well, actually, honestly, one thing that I always share is that meeting my ex, it was like me meeting somebody like that father figure who is gonna love me. I was wounded. I needed that protection.
Mm,
My inner
wow.
child came out, and he gave my inner child a safe space. But at some
Yeah.
point, I had to snap out of it and become a mother and become the powerful woman that I came here to be. And
Yeah.
that woman. I can't turn all of a sudden being a child where it's kind of like, oh, I'll book this place for you. Oh, it's so nice and all that. And like, what do you want? I don't know. Just make a decision. I'm cool with whatever that you're doing. I didn't have a voice. So I was a loving person, always smiling and all that. Now when certain things happen and then he saw this raw fucking angry lion that is roaring, is kind of like, what the fuck? Who
Yeah.
are you? And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is me, and that is me, and that is also me. It's like, no, I didn't sign up for this. So
Yeah.
I wasn't, and that's a manipulation that we do for us to get what we want. We get to be who we are not, right?
Yeah.
And it's not only his fault to say that you have become something that I don't know, because I remember there was a time, I think it was Christmas, and I was separated, and I just wished him Merry Christmas, and he said, I still miss the girl that I met, and unfortunately that girl
Oh
was
my
female.
gosh.
you know
I'm sorry. I have like big eye roll. Um, just like ugh, whatever. And I think thank you for sharing, first of all. And I think you brought up something really important. So this is like a lot of the work that I do. So the work that I do is energetic retrieval. Okay. And it was created by my mentor, and it's based off of neurolinguistic programming. So unconscious mind reprogramming.
Mm,
And it's based off of this theory, right? That when you're younger, you are whole. You are whole. And then these traumatic things happen, right? These traumatic things happen, and parts of you break off. And these parts are these wounded parts, right? So these one part might be, I need to abandon myself in order to be loved. Another one might be, you know, I need to prove myself in order to be loved, right? And these create these beliefs that we have about our relationships and we have about ourselves. They create these beliefs, they manifest in different ways and different behaviors, right? So the work that I do is we bring out this part, right? We bring out this part, and we show your unconscious mind that this part is no longer protecting you, because when you were younger it was protecting you. It got created for a reason, right? So
yeah,
when you found this
yeah,
man, you were operating in these wounded parts out here, right? You were operating from here too, but more out here. And this is normally where most people are operating that haven't done a ton of healing work yet. Is they're operating out here in all of these wounded parts, and they're like, "Hey, I like your wounded part because it makes sense with my wounded part." Right? So for mine, I need to
yeah,
self-sacrifice in order to be loved. Okay, great. Let me be with a narcissist who desires me to self sacrifice in order
yeah,
for them to receive the love they desire. Right?
yeah,
So our parts, right? They're all just hanging out with each other, these wounded parts. So the work that we do is we show this part that it's actually been harming you, not protecting you. And we're not looking at it like it's bad or it's horrible, right? Because this part is in the darkness. You have deprived it of light. You've deprived it of love, right? Because light, love, it's right here. It's
mm,
source. It's you, right? So the work we do is we reclaim this part with love rather than pushing it off to the side, pushing it more in the darkness, right? Because when you think about it, when you put something in the darkness, right, certain things thrive. But most things, it's not going to become something beautiful. It's going to wither. It's going to become something ugly. It's going to, because it's not being
yeah,
given that light and that love. We all desire love, every single part of yourself, whether you think it's a nice part or a good part, it deserves love, your love,
exactly.
right? So we bring this part back, and one by one we bring the other parts back, and we bring their opposites. So for example, one might be this unworthiness part. I'm unworthy of love, and the opposite might be unconditional love. You're reclaiming both of these parts of yourself, right? And this is
Mm,
so related to the beliefs that we have, because in these foundational relationships when we are young, right? These foundational relationships create these beliefs that we have about ourselves, the love we deserve, and about our relationships in general, right? And as we
Yeah.
become adults, like I said, our external reality is a reflection of our internal. So when we become adults, our unconscious mind is like, okay, great. These are the beliefs that we have here, 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 and here. And now they need to be reflected in our relationships. They need to be confirmed. So when we change these beliefs, when we shift, so from unworthiness to unconditional love, right? From abandonment to choosing myself, whatever it is for you. But when we bring those back and we shift those beliefs, then we begin to attract different relationships, or you'll see the relationships that you are currently in shift because, again, your
Shifting. Yeah.
unconscious mind wants this to be confirmed, these beliefs, right? And that's like also incredibly powerful to understand. Incredibly
Yeah,
powerful because it's all the
that is
power
quite
is in
amazing
your hands.
and life changing as well. And not only because it doesn't only change the relationships with it changes the relationship with ourselves, the relationship with like in personal romantic relationship, also with family and also at work and all that. So it works wonders because and speaking of that, you know, because my I just love that. And my work, it's not, I'm not, it's, I was just born to do
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
I have my experiences that teach me and all that. And even when I talk about the contracts that we have, for instance, I still remember when I was pregnant with my last born, my daughter, and I just asked her, why have you chosen me as a mother? And
Mm.
she said for you to teach me um self-worth and confidence.
Wow.
And I remember by then I shared with my ex-husband and I said, this is what the baby say, even though he doesn't believe, but I just shared, you know. And he was like, come on, our baby will have all the confidence. There's no problem and all that. And there's so many things that happened before it actually happened, you know.
Yeah.
But the funny part is all the experiences of like, oh, I'm saying all these custody issues and everything, it is still what, like she said, I'm here to learn this. All this
Mhm.
thing had to happen. Like even I had traumatic birth when she was born. We separated, and I saw her like the following day and all that. So I had to reconnect with her after, it was actually after a year after she was born, and she was like energetically she was just somewhere. I just had her calling me mommy, mommy, you know. And I had to do some work and then connect with her, because even after she came from the hospital, she didn't want to be touched or anything. There was just like that disconnection where it's kind of like, I'm just by myself, you know. So you get
Mm.
to understand that these are the lessons that we were born into. And even though
Worthiness.
things, okay, this is why sometimes parents end up divorcing, whatever that happens, and we feel all certain things because we came here to learn that. Some
Yeah.
agreements is we're gonna learn it from that, whether it's something positive that is gonna come out of it, or we're gonna gain whatever that we perceive as negative, so that we can go out there and find what we get to find with our soul tribe. And I experience a lot of this even with like, for instance, um I agree that we as children we are whole. It's true, and it's not. You know,
Yeah.
because like some of the things that we are born with, like as souls, we are looking at children. It's kind of like, oh, it's just babies that are innocent. But the truth of it is, it's babies, yes, but they're not new souls. Some of them are old souls. They've got some things that they're coming with. You know,
Yeah.
because for me, as you know, I can feel into the energy, whether it's through typing or having a conversation with somebody and all that. And when my daughter was born, she came through with a lot of anger. She was a
Mm.
little tiny baby. And at times I had to put her away because the energy that she was holding was, I want to
Mm.
beat the roof, I want to beat the tree, I want to let everything crumble, you know. And she was a
Mhm.
baby. She was
Yeah.
born with that energy, with a lot of that anger. And what I
Yeah.
love as well,
And
like
a
you
lot of
mentioned, the
people
inner child.
also have, like, very traumatic births that also
Oh,
impact
that
them
one
too.
is, and there's the reason why at times we have problems with our parents, especially that mother wound. because there was traumatic birth, we are not connected. So we don't
Yeah.
get to connect it. Kind of like my mother doesn't love me. My mother doesn't love me. I had that level of mother wound with my mom where I felt I'm not accepted by her. And it's very funny because now she's gone and I'm realizing I'm really my mom in so many ways, but
Mm,
somehow what she couldn't accept with me, it's parts of her that she could not accept with herself because she was more
absolutely.
focused on what would people say. And it's funny because by default her perception was like, what would people say? And because I wanted her approval, her love, somehow that what people would say also ended up affecting me. You
Yeah.
understand? So there's just a lot
Absolutely, and
of this.
that's what I mean, right? Like, that
Yeah.
belief is created through your foundational relationship, right,
Hmm.
with your mom, and then that gets, that belief then gets intertwined in your other relationships, and that's why it's important to, um, to
Do the
to
work.
really bring awareness to these things, right? Really bring awareness, because even with, speaking of the mother wound, the 2 women that created this smear campaign about me, um, they have some very deep mother wounds that I'm aware of, right? And I know that that's where it's coming from. I know that there's suffering there, right? And also,
And you get to be compassionate with them. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
And actually, I'm glad that you are going back there because I just before we wrap it up as well. Um, And what is it that you felt was your lesson to learn around that smear campaign? Like when you're just looking at it and the way it was
Wow,
happening.
that's a big question. There were a few, right? There were a few.
Yeah.
I mean, what was happening for me was, um, yeah, there were a few. Follow your intuition was one. Um, Another one really was, it wasn't even it was really just like, you don't have to be in this victim consciousness, right? There was a huge clearing that was happening. People were unfollowing me. People were, sending me messages. There was a huge clearing of victim consciousness in my reality. And it was like really difficult because it happened all at once. It was
Yeah.
really
And I guess
intense, right?
even the fear of losing people as well, kind of
Yeah,
like, because even though it happened, here you are. Are you dead? Heck
here I
no.
am. And that's another lesson, right? Like, what really came up for
Yeah.
me was, you are indestructible. People, no one can destroy you. No one. That you can destroy yourself, sure, fine. But
Yeah.
nobody else can,
Because you can
right?
buy into it and make it your reality. Life is happening to me and create from that, or just observe and take what you need to learn to learn as, and like what is yours, and then the rest is not yours. You get to live it
Yeah.
as it is.
Yeah.
Because
And
one
I'm
thing that
held
I
and supported. That was another big one too.
which one
That I'm held and supported by the
exactly?
by the people in my life. Like, before we went on this call, I was just writing down, like, so many things that I'm grateful for, right? I was like,
Yeah,
I want to be in gratitude right now. So I wrote down these things and I'm just like, wow, like, so much emotion came over me because we
that's
don't
quite
realize
interesting.
how exactly supported we are, right? We're so supported. Even through this, all of this hateful energy being thrown my way, I am still so supported through loving energy, you know?
Yeah. And I love that because as you're speaking about that, what I'm feeling it just like by my neck, and it's quite interesting because this is like um at the base of our neck. This is like what connects us directly to source. So I'm just feeling it there.
Mm,
And even when he started earlier, I was feeling something on my left eye, like deep within. And you can see the eye, as in like the vision, the perception, and then the connection to source, the support, which is like big. And it's a big thing for most of us, powerful people, powerful women out there, even powerful leaders. Because when I'm talking about a leader, for me, a leader is somebody who leads himself or herself, because you can't lead anyone before you lead yourself. You can't have
yeah,
power over any circumstances until you have a power over yourself. So for you to understand who you are, you wouldn't have gone through this without it breaking you. If you didn't know who you were, you get to know who you were, and
yeah,
also understanding that you are supported for you to
yeah,
be able to go
yeah,
through whatever that is showing up in your
yeah.
life.
So supported, and there's
I
so
love
many
that.
opportunities coming up from this. right? And originally, I was so devastated, so devastated. The things that were being said about me were horrible and so sad. I was like, I am so sad, not just that people are bringing this energy this my way, but that there's this energy that exists, right?
Oh, then it explains that, the shattering energy that we're talking about.
The heart shattering?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was happening. So when you
Okay.
said that to me, I was like, "This makes
Wow.
so much sense," because that's literally what I was
Wow.
feeling. I was having, like, these panic
Yeah.
attacks and, like, crying but I was also being present with everything that was coming up. And then I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I'm done now." Right? "Okay, I'm done now. I'd like to be in love."
Yeah,
And
and here we are because it's also part of the support. You see, you lose other people who are not meant to be in your next level of expansion. Those
absolutely,
people who are not meant to be in your magnificent beingness,
a
they're
big
gonna
clearing.
leave, but some are gonna come through who have
Yeah,
the capacity to handle who you are being, and that's the beautiful of it when we allow ourselves to grow, And for me, what I realized, for instance, with that, especially because there was one person, I mean, other people, I would say other people responded with that truth. And then there was somebody who was like, I'm gonna tell you who the fuck you are. And he was on my case telling me about professionalism, you don't deserve this, you are manipulative, and all that. So what I realized with that, for me, it was
like,
like
on your
teaching me.
post?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
actually ended
no.
up switching
You
up
were getting
saying,
some crazy comments too. I was
yeah. So
yeah,
for me, the lesson was like, actually, I just realized that I had a fear somehow of like really speaking my fucking truth, even though it
yeah,
might, like, I try at times to kind of like twist it a little bit, or at times I'm kind of like, okay, fine, how can I make it come out, and not just speaking it as it is. And at that moment when I posted that, I was just like, I'm just gonna share this, and there was a little bit of that fear, and that was reflected back to me by that person saying, you can't say that, you have to say it this way, that's so wrong, and all that. And I was like, okay, how I'm gonna look at this, and I'm gonna sit with this. And I started also clearing the fear of speaking my truth, because it's gonna upset other people, and like you said,
yeah,
what you're going through, and it's not even a surprise that we are here together having this conversation about that,
mhm,
right? Because it's more of an expansion and a growth into those experiences. And before
absolutely.
before I just invite you to share with the people what you're doing, I would like to, in short, what would you say is power according to you?
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that is a big question." So, I'm just, like, feeling into this, right? Because this is not something that I've, like, really intellectualized at all,
Mm.
but honestly, what's coming up for me is power is awareness in love. For some reason, that's what's coming up to me for me, sorry. I mean, especially because I received that message today from God being
Oh
like,
yeah.
"My love will give you strength," right? "My love will give you strength." And I feel like the most powerful thing most powerful energy and powerful thing is love, right? And the way we see the world, we're like, oh, there's like this like hateful energy that's running the world and da 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 da. But like at the end of the day, love is what makes you do things, right? Love is what makes you take action. Love is what allows you to open your mind, allows you to see things from different perspectives, allows you to bring awareness. So, yeah, I think I really
I I
I think it's like
I
this
love I love the answer, because to be honest, like for instance, I used to have this thing of I'm strong and you don't play with me because whatever, and all that. But the truth of it is, I didn't know how to say, it's quite interesting. I didn't know how to say no
yeah,
until I learned what love is, until I knew that I am part of God. I'm God. I'm the goddess. I'm all that. You
mhm,
understood? When I stepped into love, that's when I was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna take this, and I meant it. That's when I was
Yeah.
okay with losing people. That's when I was
Yep.
okay with me speaking my truth. That's when I was okay with saying I'm a witch doctor. You might perceive it the way you wanna perceive it,
Ah!
but I'm
I love it.
fine with it. That's when I was okay to say I'm a divorcee,
Yeah.
and all those things that we used to be afraid of judgment and all that. And I can share my truth, and how you perceive it, what you are uncomfortable with is what you get to deal with it. And this is my truth. And I
That's
got to
your
learn
work. Yeah,
exactly.
that's their own
It
work.
wasn't love, because before I was dependent on me. I feel like it's more like an expansion of what you're saying, because for me, power is aligning my personality with my soul. That is knowing that I'm God. That is knowing that what I
Mm,
am is bigger than my circumstances. That is knowing that who I am is not defined or even in a container of what I was taught and all that. Because if it was just me, depending on me, I don't think I would have gone through what I went through. At
yeah.
times I look back, even this morning, I think what came through this whole situation of my children and their father and the sister-in-law, who was the girlfriend, who was more like the person in the forefront. It's kind of like dawned on me today to say, I can't believe that the court of law allowed all of this, and for the sister-in-law, because it's kind of like today, it's kind of like I realized, oh, like I don't know how to say it. I knew, but it's kind of like I kind of like knew it in a different way, but also surprised that if I dwelled much on that, I wouldn't have come out of the victim consciousness. You
Yeah.
understand? So
Yeah.
it is because I relied on something bigger than me. Even for me to be alive in this moment is because of my purpose, is because of this something that is bigger than
Mm,
me.
yeah.
Otherwise, just by myself, I don't think I'll be here. I don't have it in me. But when I connect with my soul, with my power, and embracing the creator and the goddess and the priestess and the shaman, the witch doctor, the witch, the light worker,
Yes.
all that, our multidimensional aspect, then emerges something powerful that is not
Yeah.
willing to be held in a box, that is not willing to be shaken by somebody telling me you are manipulative or whatever, or who do you think you are? Because I've had this so many times. Who the hell do you think you are? And I get to say, okay, I'm me. You may not
Mm,
understand who I am, but I am me. And whatever that you say about me, this is the whole thing again about truth, even being of service. It's just that we have this being of service is not like, hey, I'm just going to give you a hug all the time. And that is me being of service. At times I can tell you, wake the fuck up.
yeah.
And that's what you need at that time. That is still being of service. And this is the whole
That's
thing
still
again of
moving with love.
identifying. Exactly. Even when we talk about our emotions, we at times we get to say, okay, fine, if I'm spiritual, I just have to feel this way, la la la, it's blissful and it's all light and love. At times there is darkness that we get to go into and transmit the fact that the fuck out of that darkness.
Yeah.
You understand? And that is still power, that is still being of service, that is still being spiritual, is not being a certain way. Even when I show up at times I'm angry with something. I'm not surprised and just feeling like, oh, I can't be that. As the ocean said, how you are all that. Even when you go to the ocean, Mother Ocean was sharing this with me. There is that calmness at times. People love being on the beach and just enjoying. And when the storm comes, even when you go deep in the ocean, that darkness, people don't like it. It scares the shit out of them. But the
Yeah.
treasures are deep there. We get
Yeah.
to go there and understanding that even when the ocean is angry and taking everything out that it doesn't want in its space, it is still the ocean. And we do not change who we are when we are being a certain way. It's still the God, the
Mhm.
goddessness, the priestess, and all that we are, right? So
I feel that so
this
much,
was
like, with the ocean too, I'm just like I'm so connected to water, super connected, and I, like, work with, like, water witchery stuff as well,
I
and,
do
like,
as
you can have
well.
these
This is why we met, because
yeah,
that's the power of even when you talk about flow and the whole sex, it's like everything is just like that water and all that is the magic that I also use. So it's not
I love
surprising that we
it.
are here
I
together.
love it. It's so awesome, and, like, what you were saying too is, like, with, like, the ocean and it being angry or it, like, being, like, like, I see the ocean as, like, it can be so chaotic and it can also be so still, right? And it holds all of this life, and whenever I'm in the water, I always tap into the stillness inside of me. even if there's like all this crazy like waves everywhere, I'm like, I can create this stillness.
Yeah.
Although everything around me is crazy and moving and chaotic and ah, I get to choose to master this stillness, to create this stillness, right? And you can even like take that further by saying I get to do this by transmuting this chaotic energy into stillness, right? Alchemy, right?
Yeah. And still
Um
that's the creation energy, that rawness, that storminess, that volcano and all that is still the creation energy, but we want to limit it into only being, still, even when you talk about the feminine energy, it's like we've made this feminine energy like it's something that is just like soft and and all that. But hey,
Yo,
it's
there's
all
a
that.
primal
It's all that.
feminine.
It's all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So tell
Yeah. It's not
people,
just soft.
you share with people what you do, where can they contact you, and if there is anything that you're offering, you can also share that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So like we already talked about, I am I am a relationship coach and a grief coach. Um, my magic really lies in using my voice and my breath work, right? Those my magic really lies in both of those things. I have a grief retreat that was happening this summer, but I've decided to make it next summer. That will be coming up in Quebec. So beautiful, and it's going to be a space for every single person that is there to just be with their grief. Like I said, let it breathe, be present with it, and be seen, right? See their grief and be
Yeah,
seen in their grief, and heard. Right. So many of us move through life when we have, when we experience this grief, we're like, oh my gosh, can I talk about it? Because the other person's uncomfortable. Nobody knows how to talk about it. Now my identity is this, right? And you don't have to move through it alone. So many of
yeah,
us feel like we do and we don't have to.
yeah.
So this retreat is very near and dear to my heart. I also have, so right now my offerings will be online because I will be moving to Scotland
Oh,
in a couple of months. So that's another beautiful thing that came out of this whole,
that's lovely.
smear campaign. I'm moving to Scotland. So woo.
Wow.
But yes, I have a program called The Healer, and this is really looking at these relationship beliefs that have been created and shifting them, right? Shifting them so that we can get out of these toxic patterns that we are in, and really step into embody and understand our own worth and our own value.
Yeah, yeah,
And within that program, that's a 5-week program. It's a group program as well because there's so much power in being witnessed by other women.
yeah.
And that program, I also, there's online aspect to it where it's like a course, and then there's also the aspect where we have 5 live calls. Um,
Okay.
and the online aspect, I really do give you foundational understanding of the different concepts. So of masculine energy, of feminine energy, of mother wounds, of father wounds, of working with your inner child, of Heros Gamos, of and different practices like breath work, like shaking meditation, stuff like that. So that's coming up very soon, within the next couple of weeks. And then I also do one-on-ones. My one-on-ones are near and dear to my heart, and that is where we do the energetic retrieval technique. And those typically last about 2 months where we work together. And I swear to you, it will change your life. It will change your life, and you will see yourself so differently, right? Like almost like you will see yourself through the eyes of divinity, through the eyes of God, goddess, everything you were saying. Um, when we do this, because we're bringing these parts back, and with love, right? With love and not judgment. And then we start operating from this place of center, of source, of light, of divinity, and you will see your life change so much. And you will see a relationship not only with yourself change, but your relationship with your job, your relationship with your money, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends, and your partners that you've been attracting. So that is everything that I have going on right now.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. So if you're out there listening and you feel like this is my person, because the truth of it is we've got our own people, we've got
Mm,
our own people. You can listen to someone saying something and it's the same thing, and it's kind of like, and then you hear someone saying the same thing, it's kind of like somehow we click,
yeah,
This is what I believe, that there is you know, we have our own people. So if you feel like this is talking to you
yeah,
and you are in alignment with Alexandria's energy, and yeah, you are in. I do the breath work as
yeah,
well and all this, and I know that this is life changing. I've seen it with my
yeah,
life, with my client's life, and I trust uh, that you're gonna get the same thing, that you're gonna get when you say yes to yourself, because breathwork is
yeah,
amazing. Breathwork is amazing.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
magical. It's magical. Yeah. So, is
So
there
they can
any last
find
words that
me
you?
y'all
Yeah.
can find me at Rooted and Free, ROOTED and free, FREE.ca.
Um.
Um, and you can also find me on Facebook under Alexandria Eleta Minor and on TikTok as I am Alexandria Eleta.
Oh no, I didn't.
Did you lose me?
Do you have access to the to the comments?
I don't think I do.
Okay. Or maybe after this, Alessandra was gonna put her links just down, and any one of you
Yeah,
who feels called,
I'll send it to you.
just check in, yeah, connect with her. You put your links just down there, and then anyone who is interested will just follow up with you and see what you're doing. And if there's
Yeah.
any last word that you want to share, um, any last word
No,
that you wanna.
this was wonderful. I'm so glad that you reached out and that we made this happen, and thank you so much for showing
Exactly.
up as your raw, beautiful, magical, divine self.
Thank you, and I appreciate you, because this happened the way it happened because of the space that we could hold, right? And just
Yeah,
being honest. And these are the heartfelt conversations that I really love, and I bet a lot of people desire more of
yeah,
this, of which we can find ourselves in it. So if you're watching this on replay, what is your takeaway? What is it that you relate with some of the things that we have
mm,
shared? What is it that you're experiencing that is triggering, and what is the lesson in that, and what is your relationship even with the victim consciousness? Are you the kind of person where when you see yourself feeling like you're a victim, you're like, oh my god, I don't want to be like that? Or even if someone says you're a victim, you feel like, oh my god, I've been insulted, because there is that as well. Or just look at it to say,
mhm.
where is it coming from? Because like I said, at times it's the beginning of something great. So it was a pleasure having you, and I wish you a wonderful, magical, and orgasmic day. And as I said, I'm creating something with Goddess Oshun. So be
Yeah,
on the
yes,
lookout. I'm going to share this with you.
yes, please do. That's amazing. I would love that. Um, I will send you the links and all that stuff personally, and then you can pop it